Well, I think we can all relate to that early in the morning, right? If you've never heard it help you, like, now you have.
This is such a cool thing. We're living out in Idaho. I mean, this is a common fall phenomenon, and it's characteristic of the fall. That and the changing aspens that make the creaking sound they make when the wind rushes through it. You know, he's not just hollering for coffee. He's trying to get the attention of the lady. It's fall at Essex Park, Colorado, so it is mating season after all.
There you go. Just how every species does their own thing.
Yeah.
We watched something last week. Was it the bear? I can't remember what animal it was, but it kind of just rubs their body on an object. Yes, they rub their bodies on objects and that just leaves their scent, and that attracts the insects. Yeah. I love that. Sorry, America's Morning Headquarters rolling on until.
Thanks for joining us today. It's Tuesday. We got just a couple more days left in September.
Yeah.
October right around the corner, although in many parts of the country it doesn't feel like the 80s and 90s. Some of it will be.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's part of our snapshot here as we head through the day. It is right there in the middle of the country where the warmth is going to be in place, as well as some showers as well as storms across sections of the east. We're seeing that, in fact, right now, more for this afternoon. So those can be strong to even severe. Also watching some wet weather in parts of the northwest. Western Washington, Oregon getting in on that front, and watching some storms across Texas, the Lone Star State. Some of those could turn severe as well as we head on through our afternoon and evening.
That's the beginning of a very wet pattern here for the Lone Star State, parts of the Southern Plains. Of course, the temperatures will peak today, and then they'll slowly start to shave some of those temps downward as we get an increase in rain, and also that front will work its way into parts of the Midwest.
Alright, so things start to heat up in those areas or heating back up, so you may have thought, okay, we can put the summer clothes
Yeah.
Hey, not quite yet. So yesterday we asked about when do you put those summer clothes away, kind of make that final call when the seasons change. And you answered every battle, 105 says when it temps.
Yeah, there's that chill in the air when it gets down into the 60s, certainly the 50s. Julia says, I keep my summer clothes in my wardrobe all the way until mid-December. Florida never changes seasons. It's true, but being a Floridian, people say it's cold in Florida. Not true. It is cold, and vacationers know this. You know, they didn't prepare for it. They went to Disney or went to the beach, and man, a 60-degree day at the beach is so. I've had some of my coldest experiences, you know, in the 50s and 60s because you just got prepared right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. All right, so as we work our way through the day and continue through this early part of fall, it's the beginning of fair season, right? We're following a number of fall festivals. I like the Texas State Fair, returning after a time off because of the pandemic. Now, one of the biggest draws is that food, right? The autumn harvest allows many farmers and chefs a chance to really show off. Now, in some spots, the heat in and outside the kitchen is going to be about the same, but that will be cooling off many fair activities, including the Disney on Ice Dream Big Show in Tulsa.
That brings us to our question of the day. What's your favorite fall festival activities? When we talk about going to the fair, is it the food, the rides, the games, or the live music?
And all sorts of fun things to do at the fair, and it's relatively cheap when you go. You know, it's not an expensive activity for the family to enjoy. So let us know what you think. Answer the poll and share your comments, and we'll share them with you.
All right, time now for today's big deal. Remember that taste of the fall that we had? We'll cling to it, remember it, because it's retreating in some areas. Leavenworth, Washington, we got a front coming through. Beautiful spot. You see some of the changing colors. This is the spot in the country. Have you ever heard of larks? They look like evergreens, but they change their colors, and they're brilliant yellows. There's a few strands of them in Idaho and Washington. Both of them, though, live in Canada. Grand Forks, North Dakota, 55 degrees, but we're headed into the 90s today. Houston already in the 80s, Alex. And Strasburg, Pennsylvania, good for now, but this is the spot we have to watch for storms later on.
Absolutely do. And as we work our way across that sort of eastern part of the country, the northeast at least, that's where we do have that risk for the stronger storms to impact us, particularly in the mid-Atlantic. That's going to be the area where we have the most concentrated zone of stronger storms. Wind and hail, those will be the main risks that we do face before our day. Really, anywhere you see that red shade showing up. Now, already active here for us this morning, you can see some of these rain showers as well as storms working across Pennsylvania, western Maryland, down into West Virginia. The line of showers moving its way, basically southern New York into Connecticut, as well as they're into eastern Massachusetts, where we actually have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that are now that are in place. This one here from Middlesex, Norfolk, as well as the Worcester counties until 10:30, and then the newly issued one just off towards the east. And that's again for the same storm, but it's now pushing east, holding together, so they've extended the warning eastbound here for you. That does include the Brockton area, Quincy, as well as the Wilmington area until 10:45, so there's thunderstorm warning in effect there. Watch for those winds, damaging wind gusts, a risk that we do face. Maybe a bit of hail with that as it quickly races all the way off towards the east here this morning. So allow time your force this morning there in eastern parts of Massachusetts, and also as you work your way into eastern PA into northern Jersey, you can see some of those lightning strikes showing up, and maybe downpours as well. Of course, this is a zone that has been wet, and we have more rain in these areas. Unfortunately, we are finding that right now, and we got more chances for rain showers and storms throughout the day. Back what they're saying now pushes east a bit, but then more storms start to develop and push towards the southeast as we have through this afternoon and into the evening. And then some of those storms, Chris, that could turn into some heat.
I'm going to take you out to Galveston, Texas. Last hour we checked in and it was beautiful. Still pretty, right? So we got a quiet morning, mostly cloudy, some sun rays trying to creep through. We're not raining quite yet, but we are in store for soaking rains here for not only the Texas Gulf Coast, but really a lot of the Lone Star State. This morning, most of the rain is in Louisiana. I'll show you that here on the active radar. But here's what we're calling for. Generally 2-3 inches, some locally higher amounts, especially here north of I-10 and then closer towards the Louisiana border. In fact, take a look at all of the rain we're dealing with in Louisiana. Notice the expanse of the lightning strikes. So these are growing in size and they're growing in intensity. And notice that they're slow moving. And they're training here off the Gulf of Mexico. Lake Charles, we're going to have to watch you for many rounds of heavy rainfall today, downpours. And in fact, we've got a much larger now flash flood warning kind of encompassing the original one here, meaning the flash flooding is expanding and worsening. And this has a considerable threat tag with it. This is for Louisiana parishes, Allen, Beauregard, and Vernon Parish until 11:45 a.m. That includes DeRidder, Fort Polk, and Leesville. It does jump into Texas on the far eastern border, including Newton County there in Texas. So please avoid this area, especially if you have travel plans here. Family and friends, let them know many areas are probably experiencing flash flooding or are about to. Over 6.5 inches in some of these, nearly 7 inches, and most of that has fallen just the last 3 hours. It's radar estimation, so you can imagine, yes, we're going to have flash flooding with that type of rainfall. Back over towards the Big Bend, a few thunderstorms, but we are going to watch for that risk for severe weather. And I want to show you on our high-resolution future radar how things kind of evolve. Of course, we're keeping a close watch on all of the activity here from Louisiana to coastal Texas, but we don't want to forget what happens here back towards the western half of the state. Look at these storms that could certainly pack a punch with damaging winds, certainly are going to have very heavy rainfall, especially as we get to the overnight hours. This may approach the Metroplex areas here along I-35, Austin, San Antonio. We're going to have to watch this. Very heavy rainfall and the risk for hail. When we go out through the end of the week, Alex, we're looking at several inches, especially from the hill country through central Texas, Red River Valley, and then there back towards the Texas coast.
And some of that wet weather is going to stretch to north of there as well. Here's the forecast for rainfall as we head through the remainder of the weekend, headed to the weekend. You can see stretching northbound here up through the plains, 1 to 2 inches, with a few pockets, maybe even 2 to 3 here and there. Now, all seems to be pretty quiet for you right now across the zone, but we do think that will be changing. The day will be sun-filled from Des Moines up towards Minneapolis, Bismarck as well. But what you see is that heat. And we're talking 90s here in the Dakotas. Pretty hot summertime day in those areas. And it's also going on the breezy side.
When we get to
Now, the rest on through the rest of the day, and the remainder of the week, what you start to see is an opportunity for rain showers and storms to increase. Wednesday afternoon into our Thursday morning, you've got more rain. Omaha ends up there for you, spreading into parts of Iowa, including like the Des Moines area. We'll see some chances for rain for Thursday into the evening, and continuing into Friday, really day there as well. Slowly progressing east. So areas here across the plains dry out, but then getting into the Midwest, those spots continue to deal with the risk for rain showers and cold storms. So this forecast, take a look at a spot here like Omaha, where we are going to find pretty quiet weather here heading into Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, and the Saturday, though, that's where things become a bit more unsettled, also a little cooler. The good news, we need some of the rain here in this zone. You can see the drop showing you where we have the worst of it. Northern plains, getting to the northern portion of the Rockies, those are the areas that actually stay the driest. And we do have some rain coming into these areas where we do have moderate to even severe drops. So Chris, this will be beneficial.
All right, well, let's talk about rain in areas that need it. This time lapse here as storms rolled in over Seattle. Okay, not in real time. This is a time lapse of the clouds filling the sky. Alex, I know you love a good time lapse.
Yeah.
Is this one acceptable?
Yeah,
There
it's
is
alright.
no non-acceptable time lapse. I'm telling you, it just does not exist. Yeah, it's just fantastic. You get to see all the clouds moving on by, the blue sky intermixed. It's also great for looking at the sort of the motions of the winds at different levels of the atmosphere. It's just phenomenal.
I love it. Watching the snow pile up. Oh, those are always fun to do too. All right, let's talk about the rain here at the Pacific Northwest. We got a front that's coming in. This is also enhancing the heat in the middle of the country because we got a trough
in there.
across the west. The atmospheric moisture. Of course, Texas, Gulf Coast,
I feel like we're
the
talking
highest
about how the
atmospheric
atmosphere.
precipitable water, and that's
I feel like
being in
they
the
were
form of
talking
heavy
about
rainfall,
that
causing even
last
possible winds.
week.
Also, some rain here in the northeast.
Roll those
It's
dice.
very dry conditions over the northern plains, and heat
we
today
do
is
a football
only
like
going
that?
to make that even worse. The hotter the temperatures, the quicker you're able to dry out the landscape. Then you go to the winds.
I think,
Yeah, we're in red flag warnings here. No surprise for parts of Montana, Wyoming, also the western half of the Dakotas. So this is an area that could use the rain. Not going to see it. However, we are getting out some beneficial moisture. Not just rain, but how about mountain snow? At least a wintry mix here from central Idaho to the Sawtooth all the way up into the northern part of the state. Some steady rains there near Coeur d'Alene, east of Spokane, and then here in the Treasure Valley, we've got some heavy rain, especially on towards the west side of Boise, Meridian, Eagle, Ontario. You're dealing with some of those heavier downpours, and also across the I-5 corridor, Salem, Oregon, really being hit hard right now with steady rains. Some of the totals here and some of the gauges have been between 1 and 2 inches. We've got an additional few more inches to go. About an inch here for Oregon, but if you go into Washington, the Olympic Peninsula, Northern Cascades, especially as you go up in elevation, you're looking at anywhere from 3 to 5 plus inches of rainfall for the next couple of days.
Oh, all right, wow. Well, it may be take time in the sun, still time in the sun, right? Dehydration, that sent the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs to the hospital after Sunday's game. Andy Reid, he's on now, doing fine. Team played at home on Sunday. It was an afternoon game. The temperatures were in the 90s. Yeah, it was a hot one for sure. All right, well, let's talk about this heat, which continues. The impact is here in the middle of the country. Potential record heat, we've got that in store. You see what we got for today, 92 in Kansas City, so again, another hot one, Dallas as well. All the way up through the plains, that's where some of the hottest numbers will be. I mean, we're talking mid-90s, that would be possible parts of the Dakotas. So that's where we got the core of the most above average temps. And then you can see a lot of those sort of warm colors showing up. Really anywhere east of the Rockies is we're finding that the temperatures will be above average. You really have to head to the west coast to find anything on the cooler side. But there are some of those temperatures I talked about in terms of records. Wilson, North Dakota, 95 the forecast. The record is 92. That goes back to 1897 in Rapid City. Could be pretty close to a record of 92. We're forecasting 91 degrees. This is all happening with this big ridge that's in place in the middle of the country. We got a trough in the west. That's what's keeping things a little bit on the cool side there. Also, off in the northeast, cooler times there, but right in between with that ridge, that's where the warm is going to remain. In fact, you can see that ridge building farther north. Even crossing the border up into Canada, we'll be seeing some warm temperatures there as well. And expanding a little bit farther east, southeast areas starting to warm up. A lot of these areas enjoying some low 70s and some 60s for highs late last week. Well, that has changed. We're warming right back up. Summer kind of returning in these areas. That continues into Thursday. Now we're talking 86 in Nashville, 87 showing up in the ATL. We do start to notice some cooler numbers though right across the plain states with some of those 70s in play. But everyone else, that's where we'll find some of the warm across those sections of the Midwest down into the South. Now, looking beyond now into the month of October, so that early part of the month, if you look at the temperature here from the Climate Prediction Center, above average is expected. Now, how much above average yet to be determined, but above average versus what we can expect for a large portion of the country.
All right, so hurricane hunters continuing to fly missions into SAM to gather data about the storm out of the Atlantic. You can see the latest stats here. 130 miles per hour, making a Category 4 still, very potent. Notice how far away it is, though, from any of the Caribbean islands, over 600 miles still east of the northern and Leeward Islands. And thankfully, it's already making that turn to the north. Bermuda will come into closest contact with it, but even then, think will remain unscathed for the most part. 50% chance of developing there with the remnants of Peter, but more likely to develop are waves east of Sam, so back towards Africa. Invest 91L and Invest 90L, the National Hurricane Center, has high likelihood of developing into something tropical. Of course, what does this mean to the U.S.? Will any of these get close to the mainland? We will answer that more. America's Morning Headquarters, keeping an eye on your weekend. It's on Tuesday. You get ready for that.
Yeah, that's right.
Get
One
ready for
man's
the
trash, another man's claim to fame. Meet the TikTok star who is winning over fans with his journey time. That was all coming up. And about our cleaning up outlet.
Don't forget our question of the day either. We want to know, what is your favorite thing about visiting the fair? We're going to share your responses on the Weather Channel. Go to Twitter, send us your comments, and let's share your pics video by using the hashtag #GuestTV.
Indeed. Food, always a good one.
Yeah.
Rides, I think it's just what's early. Kids love the rides. Live music, though. You get into a fair fairly cheaply. You can catch some good acts.
Yeah, especially. Yeah, definitely.
You better listen